Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to my kitchen. I thought let's switch it up, film a video in here so that I can share with you my favorite keto pantry staples for baking. When it comes to baking on keto, there are some specialty ingredients that you might not have heard of before, but they all play a role in making your keto baking perfect. So in this video, I'm going to do a general overview about some of my favorite ingredients. So let's tear into things. First things first, this makes up the bulk of my keto pantry. Haven't shown you guys this section of my keto pantry. It is not at all as pretty as this. So let's just focus on this. All of the jars, by the way, are just from Kmart. And then the labels I got made from an Etsy store. The Etsy store is no longer in action. And to be honest, I wouldn't recommend it because I have to keep this like thing over it. Because when I try to peel that away, the letters go. So on my to-do list is to get new labels made up. But anyway, let's move on from that. I'm gonna bring out the ingredients that I use the most and show you how they all play a part in my keto baking. I'm gonna start by talking about keto flours. The most popular keto flour is almond flour, which I have here. I've got mine labeled as almond meal because in New Zealand, generally speaking, almond meal and almond flour can be interchanged just one for one. I'll explain the reason why. I've brought you over here to show you the difference between almond meal and almond flour. These two products were sent to me as a gift by PBCo, so thank you very much PBCo, but they also just show you the difference. So traditional almond meal has these specks in it. The specks are because the almonds are ground with the skin on. So this will be a little bit more coarse than this. Almond flour, like traditional almond flour, won't have any specks at all because these are blanched almonds, but both almond meal and almond flour are 100% almonds. In terms of nutritional information, they're pretty much identical. In terms of taste, this one will have maybe a tiny bit more of an earthy flavor than the almond flour because it doesn't have any of the skins, but you can use them interchangeably in your baking. This is another brand of almond meal. This is one I bought in New Zealand, and you can see it has a few specks. There's like a few in here, but it's just as finely ground as the almond flour. But it can't be labeled almond flour because there are some specks. So you can use almond meal in place of almond flour in recipes if you see this listed as an ingredient. If you have almond meal on hand or almond meal is cheaper where you live, then don't worry about switching it out. Another popular flour is coconut flour. Coconut flour is great, although it doesn't have the same neutral taste as almond flour does to me, or almond meal, which is why I prefer using almond. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they can just substitute in coconut flour and almond flour in 1-to-1 ratios, and that is not the case at all. They actually act completely differently and have totally different properties when it comes to baking. When it comes to switching out between these two, 1 cup of almond flour is equivalent to a 1/4 cup of coconut flour. So if you see in a recipe, for example, there's a 1/4 cup of coconut flour and you want to use almond flour instead, you're going to have to use 4 times the amount of almond flour so that it absorbs the same as 1/4 cup of coconut flour would be. So a 1/4 cup of coconut flour is equal to 1 cup of almond flour, and that's like the ratio that I keep inside my head. So you can interchange them, but just keep that in mind. And obviously the coconut flour has a slightly more coconutty flavor given that it's from coconut, and it also has like a maybe like a more chalky kind of like texture to it in some recipes. Depends how it's used. It can be used, I like to use a blend of both sometimes because this helps with like the absorbency. So in my keto bagel recipe, my New York style keto bagels, there's both almond meal and almond flour and coconut flour, and it works great. If you're allergic to almond meal, a really good option to use in place of it is ground flax seeds. You can also use, and I think if you, these are the brown ground flax seeds, But if you got golden flax seeds and ground them yourself, that's a more neutral, milder tasting flaxseed, whereas the brown ones are a bit more earthy. You can also use any other type of seed or nut that's been ground into a flour. So sunflower seeds, hazelnuts, pecans, walnuts, like whatever you want, you can use it in place of almond flour. Next up, let's talk sweeteners. There are so many different keto sweeteners out there, but primarily the most popular ones are erythritol, or a blend of erythritol and stevia, allulose, monk fruit, xylitol, stevia. You can have powdered stevia or you can have stevia drops. Let's start with xylitol, low glycemic sweetener that doesn't spike your blood sugar. Xylitol is extremely toxic to pets, so if you do have a little doggy, be very, 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 very careful. I don't like having xylitol in our house because of that reason, but I wanted to show you guys what it looks like so that you can see. It looks just like table sugar. Xylitol has a little bit of a cooling effect when you eat it, but that can be masked by other ingredients that you're using as part of your baking. One way in which I like to use xylitol is in ice cream because it doesn't freeze as firm as erythritol, so it makes it a bit more scoopable. In terms of glycemic index being like the most keto friendly, xylitol is a bit higher on the index than the likes of monk fruit, stevia, erythritol, so it will spike your blood sugar more than those other options, but not too much that it's not considered to be keto friendly. Erythritol looks exactly like table sugar as well. Erythritol has a cooling sensation as well when you have it. It hardens, so if you're making cookies using erythritol, the cookies won't be chewy cookies, they'll be like crisp, crunchy cookies because as it cools, it hardens. Erythritol is commonly blended with another sweetener, and that blend actually helps to detract from some of the cooling sensation. I like to have erythritol in what's known as like a classic keto sweetener. A classic keto sweetener is erythritol and stevia powder blended together. Mostly erythritol and then a tiny bit of stevia just to kind of cut through that cooling effect. You can buy erythritol stevia blends in so many different options. They come as icing sugar or powdered sugar. They come just as like regular sugar. You can buy it just like regular, or you can also get brown sugar or golden sugar. And all I've done to make this is just add a little bit of molasses. So you can do that yourself if you want, or if you're feeling lazy and you want it pre-made, it exists. You can also make your own keto powdered sugar or icing sugar by just putting your sweetener into a magic bullet or NutriBullet and just blitzing it. It will turn into powdered sugar straight away. Monk fruit is another really popular sweetener. I really like monk fruit. I haven't noticed any cooling sensation when having it. You can buy flavored monk fruit sweetener like this one, which is nice to add to your coffee. It also comes as like a golden sweetener option, so similar to the other brown sugar that I showed you, where they've just added a little bit of molasses to give it the color, but there's no aftertaste, no cooling sensation, doesn't bump up your blood sugars, so it's very keto friendly, and there's like no calories, so it's perfect. I don't own any stevia powder, but I have stevia drops galore, and these are great to add to coffees or to sweet treats. I love to add stevia drops, flavored stevia drops, and like vanilla to my keto granolas. I just find it gives a more kind of concentrated flavor and adds a bit of sweetness. Stevia on its own to me has like a little bit of an aftertaste similar to like aniseed or licorice, but when there's like a flavor added in, so lemon, coconut, vanilla, whatever flavor, it takes that sort of licorice kind of flavoring away. And again, it's very, very mild. It's not something that I notice anymore. It was just the first time that I tried powdered stevia, I noticed that. The more unprocessed the stevia is, the more of an aftertaste it will have, but it is a natural sweetener regardless of it being a more processed natural sweetener, and that also makes it very keto friendly. Allulose is a newer sweetener that's available in New Zealand. It's quite hard to source, There are some places I believe that ship to Australia as well, but the reason why I love allulose is no other sweetener has the same properties of this one, and my favorite thing that it can do is keep things gooey and chewy. So for my keto caramel slice, using allulose as the sweetener means that caramel doesn't sit as a hard caramel. It stays soft and chewy, which is so yummy when you're making a caramel out of allulose and you're using it as the caramel in your toffee pop cookies or on a slice, or just even as their own to have chewy caramels. Allulose also, if you're using it in cookies, it'll give you a soft, chewy cookie because it doesn't sit hard. It stays nice and soft and chewy. Its properties mean that it doesn't spike your blood sugar, so it's super keto friendly, but it looks exactly like table sugar. It's low glycemic index. To me, this does not have any aftertaste, but that's just my personal view on it. Remember, with allulose or any sweetener, some people can be quite sensitive to them, so it's all about trying it out, seeing if it works for you. If it upsets your stomach, then it's just not friendly for your body. Just look for another alternative. That's a rundown on some of my keto pantry staples when it comes to flours, sweeteners, and some of my favorite keto ingredients. I hope that was a helpful overview to get you started on your keto baking. It's Editing Owl here, coming to you from the future. I just finished editing this vlog and I realized that I forgot to film an outro. So I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. If you did find it helpful, please give it a thumbs up because the support means the world. And if you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe because I upload new videos every single week sharing my journey following a healthy keto lifestyle. And if there is a particular ingredient or question you have about keto-friendly ingredients, feel free to leave them in the comments below, or if there's a video that you'd like to see from me on keto ingredients or keto baking, whatever, let me know because I would love to make it for you. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!